Okay, so we've got a Fiat 500 in today. It's done just over 35,000 miles and it's a 2016 model. As you can see, it's a Fiat 500X. It's bigger than the smaller Fiat 500s that most people are used to. So this car's going on a reasonably long journey soon. And I've been asked to just check it over really, like a pre-holiday inspection, do a few safety checks, kind of thing that anyone can really do at home. Just have a walk round and see how we get on. So I'm going to start off in the driver's side, just have a quick look at this seat belt. I mean, it's basically like a routine I would do on a service, or used to do on MOTs. Just pull the belt out, make sure it's not split or frayed. Make sure it clips in okay and releases under tension. Give that a pull and press the button, that should release. That's okay. So I'll carry on and do the other 4 belts and then we'll have a look at the lights next. Okay, so while I'm in the car, I'm just going to do a few little checks. Make sure the windscreen washers are working and wipers aren't leaving any streaks. I will check those and make sure they're not starting to split as well, but they look pretty good from here. Horn works okay. And I'll put some lights on. We can check some lights next. So we'll have reverse, headlights, fog lights, hazard lights, and just have a quick look at them, make sure they're okay. So, yep, we've got 2 number plate lights there. You can see the side lights working, indicator, reverse light. Same this side, but with a fog light there. That's good. The door mirrors have the side repeaters in them. They look to be working okay. Yeah, then we've got dip beam, indicator, side light, fog light. They're all good, both sides. I will flick that up onto main beam and make sure they both work okay. Yeah, lovely. So I'll turn all those out. If you haven't got somebody around to put their foot on the brake, I generally use a pry bar. That fits quite nicely to hold the brake pedal down. But hopefully you've got a helpful assistant who can do that for you. Yeah, we've got all 3 stop lights there. So next we'll turn all that off and take a look in the boot. So I just want to make sure that the spare is okay. You can see there it's quite organised. We've got some oil to top up, got some water in here, there's a high-vis jacket there. I mean, obviously you need a lot more kit if you're driving abroad. Good idea to take some bulbs as well, although it can be quite a job to change bulbs on pretty much any car nowadays. You end up taking the whole lamp out. But at least if you've got bulbs and things with you, if you do have a problem, you might be able to find somebody who can change them for you if you can't do it yourself. So, not all cars have a spare wheel nowadays. You often find an inflation kit, but this one's got a spare in it and it's inflated as well. I just want to make sure that everything's here that should be. I imagine this will be a jack, and yeah. It's going to be different on every car, but yeah, at least we can see there. It's got a jack. You've got a towing eye there. I'm not too sure what this is. Maybe that's a hazard sign, which you can unfold and put in the road if you do get a puncture, just to warn people that you're stripping the car down in the road. So it looks like everything's there. That's the wheel brace there. Excellent. So I'll put all this back together, and I think we'll have a look under the bonnet next. Right, so we'll pop the bonnet open. One other thing to check while you're in here is to make sure you've got your locking wheel nut key. Can't do a lot without that if you get a puncture. Yeah, that's in there. Brilliant. Good idea if you've got a tow rope or strap and maybe some jump leads, a few useful things to have in the boot, especially if you're going on a bit of a journey. Right, so really we're just looking at the fluid levels under here. Windscreen wash, I can see it's got some in there. I'll top that up just with some tap water. You can use an additive if you want to, but if you're not filling up regularly with your screen wash, sometimes that can solidify and end up being a bit like wallpaper paste. So if you do use it, don't put too much additive in there. Coolant looks fine. While it's here, I will check the antifreeze strength. I've got a tester in the toolbox. Right, so yeah, well, you can see there's quite a few floating there. That's actually quite a strong mixture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll go down to minus 37 degrees centigrade, which sounds a bit extreme, but when you take into account the wind chill factor when you're driving along, blowing through the front of the car, that will cover it. What have we got over here? Brake fluid there. The bottle a bit of a wiggle. You can see the levels down here. Somewhere on here will be a minimum and maximum level, which that looks like the minimum one there. And it's up to here, so I would say that's fine. I can't actually see a maximum mark. Maybe it is this rib. But anyhow, that looks fine. It's way up above the minimum. Engine oil. Cap's okay. So it's been sat here for a little while now, so it's had a chance to settle. Yeah, it's down a bit low. It's kind of halfway between the minimum and the maximum, so I will top that up as well. Something else to look at, if you can, is the auxiliary drive belts, which you can just about see there. It's a little bit awkward to see on this model, but if you can, just see if you can twist it over and have a look at the underside of the belt, which is a bit awkward to show, unfortunately. Just see if there's any splits in there, but that looks good. So I'm just going to grab some oil and some water and top these two up. Oh, that'll do for that. That's up there now. Engine oil, I would guess probably only wants 1/4 of a litre, maybe not even that. So just put it in dribbles. And keep checking it. The last thing you want to do is put too much in there, because that can cause just as many problems as having not enough. So I'll let that settle for a bit and check it again in a moment. Okay, so this has stood for a little while now. Just make sure that level's good. Yeah, we're spot on there. Just slightly below the maximum. And that's fine. So, get that funnel out of there. I'm pretty much done under here. Just generally looking around, I can't see any problems. Everything looks like it's where it should be. All looks fine. So we'll drop the bonnet down, and I was going to have a look at the wipers. They seem to work fine, but just make sure they're not split. They tend to come away at the ends when they start wearing, but that's fine. That's all good. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, lovely. They're fine, nothing to worry about there. I didn't check the rear one, did I? So I'll put that on, make sure that works okay. That doesn't lift up very far. That's a little tiny nick on the corner, but that's okay. Yeah, a little tiny bit at this end as well, starting to split. I'll recommend that to the customer, but that's not going to stop her driving it, I'm sure. Okay, next we'll have a look at the wheels and tyres. Right, so looking at the wheels and tyres, this is the near side front. This is the one that normally suffers with curb damage. Looking at the rim, it's pretty smooth all round. You can see I've turned it on lock now just to make it a little bit easier to see the tyre tread and everything. So we're just going to look for any cuts or bulges or splits on the sidewall. It all looks pretty good, and as they get older they might have a lot of tread on them, but they start to perish and you get tiny little cracks in the sidewalls mainly. But this looks fine from what I can see. Tread wise, yeah, it's got plenty of tread on it. You can see the little 2mm marker bars there. Once you wear down to that, though, you know, the tyre really needs changing. The limit's 1.6, but 2mm, it's a good idea to get a new one. But that looks fine from what I can see. Really, you could do with having a glance at the inner sidewall and inner edge of the wheel rim, same as we did on the outside, just to make sure there's no bulges or splits or anything. Obviously you're a little bit limited what you can see on the floor, so you just got to do the best you can. It might be worth rolling the car forward a bit and checking the tread a bit further round. Alternatively, you can jack it up. It really depends how far you want to go with the checks. So everything we've done so far has been on the ground. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've got a ramp here and put it up in the air and have a better look at the tyres and the suspension, just to make sure everything looks sound. Right, so now we're up in the air. This is going a little bit more in depth, but you can do this with a jack at home if you want to. I'm just feeling the wheel bearing, top and bottom, that's fine. Side to side is more to do with your steering. I can't feel any free play in that, that's good. And kind of that position, 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock I suppose. That's a good test for the bottom ball joint. Make sure that's nice and tight, and I can't feel any free movement there. It's all tight how it should be. That's all good. So, oh, one other thing. Have a quick look at the brake pad lining in there. That looks fine. I can see it looks good. Just a visual inspection, that's all. On the back, brake lining's a little bit more difficult to see. But it looks fine, what I can see of it. So, I can't feel any free play in that. That's all tight, that's good. That noise is just the pad touching the disc, which is fine. Can't see any damage on the wheel, apart from a little bit of corrosion there, but that won't hurt it. And as I mentioned about the tyres perishing, you can see this has got some tiny little splits there. And if we move round, you can actually see inside the tread some tiny little splits as well. They don't look like they go too deep at this point. Oh, that one, hello, that said, yeah, that isn't great. Yeah, I think I'll recommend a tyre on there. That's not fantastic seeing that. So I'll carry on and do the other side, and then we'll have a look underneath. So it's not exactly immaculate in here, but I know the floor was swept and fairly clean before we started. Now, since this car's been sat here, we seem to have gathered a small puddle of oil underneath. Maybe that's why the level was low. If you see there on the belly pan, it's all it's soaking wet with oil, and all down the car. When it's driving along, it's all blown back on the exhaust here and on the floor. So I will need to take the belly pan off and have a better look at that. So if you do see some spots of oil on the floor under your car where you're parking, it's a good idea to get it investigated, especially if you're planning a long journey. Anyway, back to the tyres. You can see a bit more of the brakes there. They look okay from what I can see. Got your brake flexi hose here. Just looking for any little splits or bulges. It looks okay. You can see a bit more of your spring on the shock absorber there. Your drive shaft boots, rubber boots. That's your bottom ball joint there. Your track rod end here. They've all got rubber boots on them. Good idea to make sure they're not split. Couldn't feel any free play in anything when I was shaking the wheels. That's your anti-roll bar drop link here, which bolts onto the shock absorber and onto the anti-roll bar this end. That's also got ball joints each end and rubber boots. But from what I can see, that all looks fine. Yeah, the inner sidewall looks good. So I'll carry on and do the other 3 wheels, pretty much the same as what we've just done there. So that pretty much completes a simple check over a car before a long journey, the kind of things that I like to look at anyway, just so you don't get caught out really. I've got a few things to report back to the customer. The rear wiper blade, that's a bit of a minor thing, and both rear tyres slightly perished, one of them starting to split quite badly, and obviously that oil leak is going to need some attention.